Hello viewers, so in this video I'd be talking about the Baazee.com case that happened in the year 2004, which actually had its impact in the year 2008 and 2009 to bring in the amendments to the concept of intermediaries liability in the Information Technology Act 2000 in India. So the major amendments that had happened in the year 2009 were majorly due to the happenings and the events that had occurred in the Baazee.com case. So let's get to know the intricacies of whatever happened in the Baazee.com case. So, this case was basically filed against a charge sheet was filed against Abneesh Bajaj, Ravi Raj, and another individual, Sharad Digumarti, who was at that point of time the manager of the website. Avnish Bajaj was the CEO of the Baazee.com. So now let's see what actually happened in this particular case. So uh, in the year 2004, a 17-year-old schoolboy had filmed a sexual act featuring his classmates and himself, and both of them were minors. The video was circulated within the mobile phones for some time, and thereafter it was listed for sale in Baazee.com by this particular individual called Ravi Raj, who was a fourth year student of IIT Kharagpur. So now we also have to know about who this individual Avnish Bajaj was. As we can see that it has been stated that it is Avnish Bajaj versus state. So this was one of the cases that was filed by Avnish Bajaj for him to get bail, right, in the year 2005. So Avnish Bajaj was basically the CEO of Baazee.com. Baazee.com was a customer to customer website, C2C website. It was a online auction site. Online auction site by the meaning is that it facilitated online sale of property. So the Baazee.com would be receiving commission from the sales, and it would also generate revenue from advertisements that would be carried on in its web page. So this obscene MMS clip was listed for sale on Baazee.com on 27th November 2004. Right, as the date here mentions, on 27 November 2004, Ravi Raj had listed this MMS clip on the website, right? Uh, and then there were some copies sold through Baazee.com for which the seller had received money for sale. Resultantly, Avnish Bajaj was arrested. But before that, let's get into some other intricacies of how do you enter into the website and what was the whole process of whatever happened in the transmission that was happening. So Baazee.com was basically an online selling platform. So Baazee.com was basically the subsidiary of eBay Incorporation USA. So now it has been renamed to eBay.com. Baazee.com was basically the prior version of eBay.com. So basically what happened was that this a platform is an online selling platform. As I said, it's an online auction site. So you make an ID. So whenever a particular individual wanted to register on Baazee.com, they would be making an ID, right? It was a selling platform. You would make an ID. The individual could register themselves. Obviously, an individual only above the age of 18 years could register themselves. Then they would be choosing an appropriate Baazee ID. So it was called the Baazee ID, and it would be, and they would be given, then they would just give a password which would be used every time to log in into that system, right? So the first step was registering, and the second step was creating a listing, and obviously the third step would be making the payment whenever you try to have a transaction. So payment would be either COD, Paisa Pay, or check. So we would get into the payment process in the later stage of the video. So when a particular customer would be listing an item for sale for the first time, a customer support representative would have to verify his contact details, that would be the address and the phone number, by calling up the user on the contact number given on the registration details. Then Baazee India Private Limited would actually let them have a particular file there, right? So now in this case, Ravi Raj, who was the fourth year student of IIT Kharagpur, who had actually done the major offense, right? So he was registered as a seller on the Baazee.com since July 2004. With the particular email ID that you can see over here, that is psell@sifi.com, right? It was his email ID. On 27th November 2004, Ravi Raj placed on the website a MMS video clip for sale at rupees 25 per at rupees 125 per piece. He was registered under the name Alice Electronics, and the clip was registered under the category books and magazines and subcategory e-books. The video was listed with the description as you can find over here. This is the whole description of the video. It stated item, this was the number or the listing number of that particular video, and it stated that DPS girls having fun, full video plus Baazee points, and you could find this particular listing over here, right? So as you can see, the listing read as DPS girl having fun. Do you want to see that video clip, which is the rock the whole Delhi, and now has become the hot point of discussion in the entire nation? Yes, then what are you waiting for? Just order for this product and it will be delivered to you within few hours. This video is of a girl of DPS RK Puram, which has been filmed by his boyfriend in a very sexually explicit condition. So when this particular video got listed on the website, on the same day, this particular on the same day, the website received information on 27th itself that the video was pornographic. So you can also relate to it in terms of today's social media portals or any kind of a portal. So you have an option to report a particular content. Similarly, that was also there at that point of time. This was also called the community watch scheme, as you can see here. So we'll discuss about that more. So to just be in line with the facts, it was reported on the same day by one of the users that the video was pornographic in nature and obscene, and it was obscene content which was illegal in India and it should be taken down. However, the website took it down on 29th November 2004. So 27th it was reported, taken down on 29th. That was that had a 38 hours interval between the time of report and it being taken down. Because 28th was a Sunday, as was actually contended by the Avnish Bajaj side and by the Baazee India Private Limited side, that it was kind of, there was this interval between, like it was a Sunday, so they could not have any means to take it down. So in between 27th and 29th, before the information was passed, like after the information was passed and before it was taken down, 8 sales had already taken place of this particular video. So now understand that there are two aspects of this Baazee India Private Limited and Baazee.com site. So Baazee.com site and Baazee India Private Limited, that is the company that worked for which had this website, that is Baazee.com. They had a safety and a trust division which instituted word and text filters so that the objectionable listings could be removed. As you can see, the website had a word and a text filter, by virtue of which any sexually explicit word offensive in nature could be automatically filtered by the website and the video could be taken down. So one of the aspects of this thing was that the filter actually was not working, because the word sex was sex, as in this particular word, was listed at serial number 23 of the list, right, of sexually explicit words which were offensive in nature. It was listed in the text word and text filter to be detected in order to be taken down. Word sexual was also listed at serial number 70 of the particular list, right? So it was definitely one of the particular suspected words that were two of the four particular suspected words that would actually amount to the filter working to take the video down. But that means if it was not taken down with the filters being there in place, right? If you remember, we had I had shown you the description, so it had mentioned these kind of words, so it should have been taken down. So it was not done, right? So the next aspect of this particular Baazee India Private Limited was that there was a community watch program that was going on. So as you can see, it has been written that there was a community watch scheme that was working on the website, where in any case, if somebody reports a specific video for obscenity, the video would be blocked by the website. So a community watch program was also operational, where if anyone brought to the notice of Baazee India Private Limited an objectionable material listed, it would trigger a process by which the listing would be deactivated. So this was one of the aspects of this particular Baazee India Private Limited as well. Obviously the item was screened by the filter, right? It was also screened by the filter, the word and text filter. It should have been placed it should have been taken down. Moreover, the process of a particular video being listed on the website was that once the particular item would be screened by the filter, then only it would be placed on the site with a unique computer generated ID. So it should have been taken down by the website, and because of the filter not working, it was not taken down. So that is one of the major facts of this particular case. Next, another particular important point was with regard to the payment system. So I had discussed that there were three kind of payment system applicable: COD, cash on delivery, Paisa Pay, and checks. So what is this Paisa Pay system, right? Paisa Pay system is something that needs explanation. So the system would once in a week calculate the amount payable to the listed user. So supposedly this particular individual Ravi Raj, working as Alice Electronics on the website, so there were 8 sales that were made. So in the week there would be a calculation of the amount made supposed to be made payable to the listed user, right? So supposedly there are sales happening, so he has listed the video at 125 per piece. So there will be calculation of the amount that is supposed to be paid to this particular user, right, in a week. And then there would be a file that would be sent to the HDFC bank, who would then issue a printed DD, demand draft, in the name of the bank account number provided by the seller on the Baazee.com. So the HDFC bank would then dispatch the demand draft to the address provided by the seller. In this, the Baazee India Private Limited received a commission, which was usually a percentage of the selling price of the product. So if you remember, I have mentioned that the listing was offering the video at a selling price of rupees 125 per piece, right? But when we would look into how it was sold, uh, this particular video, when a particular user will be buying the video, right, it would be, the payment would be made through the according to the system available, the payment would be made through credit card or paisa pay, and the buyer had to pay rupees 128. So there was this difference, 125 and 128, so 3 rupees would be going to Baazee India Private Limited every time a sale would happen, right? And also Baazee India Private Limited was earning from HDFC Bank, being one of the mediums of payment in the paisa pay process. So this whole process was actually done for Baazee India Private Limited to earn revenue out of whatever transactions happened through Baazee India Private Limited, through Baazee.com. So again, by the time the deactivation was done, 8 cells had already been made. So uh, somewhat it was actually making Baazee.com responsible, because it was acting as an intermediary. Now let's look into what the decision was, and what happened. So now you know about the facts. So when on 9th December, when the arrest happened, the charge sheet was actually filed against Avnish Bajaj, who was the CEO of Baazee India Private Limited, um, and against it was filed against Sharad Digumarti, who was the manager of the website, and it was filed against Ravi Raj, who was the person who had posted the video on the website. So Ravi Raj was basically nowhere to be found. He had absconded, and Avnish Bajaj and Sharad Digumarti were arrested actually. So So as you can see, the filter was actually grossly inadequate, because in spite of the word sexual and sex existing in its suspect list, the program was not able to detect and block the specified product which was listed with this word. So the question would be, for this inadequacy of the program, of this computerized program, could you make Avnish Bajaj liable? So these were the certain questions that had come up. So now we need to understand what were the relevant provisions that of IPC and the IT Act that were relevant in this particular case. So section 292 of Indian Penal Code, which deals with obscenity, that was involved because it stated that any figure or any object shall be deemed to be obscene if it is lascivious or appeals to the prurient interest, such as to tend to deprave and corrupt a person. Further, the section makes it an offense to distribute, import, export, exhibit, advertise obscene content by any means of traditional print media. So it was talking about publishing or advertising or distributing anything which is an obscene content. So one of the relevant provisions of this act was section 292. Section 294 was also involved of IPC, which talks about that it makes it an offense to do any obscene act or utter obscene words or songs in public places to the annoyance of the others. So these were the two provisions from the Indian Penal Code which were involved in this particular dispute, which were supposed to be analyzed to understand whether Avnish Bajaj could be held liable under, and the Baazee India Private Limited could be held liable under these provisions. Next, from the IT Act, there were certain provisions, section 67, section 79 and section 85, which were supposed to be analyzed and examined. So section 67 basically makes it punishable to transmit or publish obscene content in electronic form. Next, there was section 79, which is talking about at that point of time, before the 2008 amendment, it was talking about liability of a network service provider for exemption of liability, actually exemption of liability of a network service provider for any acts done by the third party. So at that point of time, section 79 would only be exempting you from any liability that arose under the IT Act. It did not cover all the other acts at that point of time. So it would only be exempting the intermediary from liabilities that arose under the IT Act. So section 79 was only protecting a network service provider. Under the broad umbrella of network service provider, online auction sites do not come, right? So that is why network service providers were exempted from liability. In this case, Baazee India Private Limited would not come under that particular umbrella. So that was one of the problems that was there with section 79. There were also other problems, as it did not cover the liabilities under other acts, other statutes at that point of time, like IPC, right? So that was one problem. Then it also said that, you know, a particular individual, a particular intermediary would only be exempted from liability if it proved that it exerted due diligence so that the offense is not committed. So the burden of proof was on the intermediary itself. So there were certain issues in section 79 due to which it was creating problems for all these online commerce portals. So that is why the amendment was made, right? Alright, then section 85 talked about the liability that arises in case of a company that is involved. So there was a deemed criminal liability provision for a company and the directors of a company in case of section 85. This was the provision under which you could see that basically Avnish Bajaj would attract this particular provision. So next, when we talk about section 292 and section 67, because you see section 292 is talking about any kind of publishing on traditional print media. It is a provision regarding obscenity in IPC, and section 67 is the provision regarding obscenity in IT Act. So what you see is that the difference between these two provisions is that while the later, that is section 67, criminalizes the transmission of obscene content, the former criminalizes the dissemination of obscene content through conventional print media, such as through writings, books, drawings, or pamphlets. So now we need to understand what was the decision. So we are now going to be analyzing the decision in this particular case. So the court prima facie observed that with regard to section 292A and 292 subclause 2 subclause D of IPC, a case is made out against the website, both in respect to listing and the video clips respectively. So I would request you to go through these two particular provisions to understand the case a little better. Right, so because of publication of and transmission and this particular obscene content that was disseminated through the website, the website was made liable. The court observed that by not having appropriate filters that could have detected the words in the listing or the pornographic content of what was being offered for sale, the website ran a risk of having imputed to it the knowledge that such an object was in fact obscene. And thus it was held that, as per strict liability imposed by section 292, the knowledge of the listing can be imputed to the company. So Baazee India Private Limited was actually made liable in this case, right? So because in this case, obviously an offense was made under section 292 against the website, right, with regard to the listing and the video clip, because if appropriate filters would work, right, if the filters were appropriate, it would have detected the word in the listing or the pornographic content for what was offered for sale, right? So the website actually ran a risk of being imputed to the knowledge that the particular listing was in fact obscene in nature. So that was one of the reasons why Baazee India Private Limited was held liable, also because Section 79 was not was not exempting the intermediary from the liability of any other act at that point of time. So Baazee India Private Limited held liable. Right, this decision actually led to a lot of hue and cry, because first of all, uh, online commercial sites were actually very new at that point of time, and they needed to function, and intermediaries, see, if you look at it from a very bird's eye point of view, you could see that intermediaries have a lot of users these days. So there are a million number of users who are present on that intermediary. So it is very it is actually impossible for an intermediary to go through each and every file or a content that is posted online, right? So it is very difficult for them to really go through each and every content that is posted. So that is one of the problems that is there with regard to making intermediaries liable, for which there was the change that was made in the 2008 amendment, incorporating the safe harbor principles. So this was one of the problems for which all these particular online commerce site, e-commerce sites actually lobbied for the amendment to be made in 2008. Next, when we talk about Avnish Bajaj, who was the CEO of the company, he was actually not held liable. The court held that since the IPC does not recognize the concept of automatic criminal liability under Section 292 and Section 294, so you could read the two sections and you see that it does not give automatic criminal liability to the director where the company is an accused. So company was held liable under this particular provision, right? So but because it does not give automated criminal liability, the petitioner could be discharged under Section 292 and Section 294 IPC. Next, when we talk about the liability that accrues under Section 67 and Section 85 of the IT Act, the court observed that a prima facie case was made out against the petitioner, Mr. Avnish Bajaj, since the law recognized under Section 85 the deemed criminal liability of director. Even when the company is not arraigned as an accused, the judgment was actually under Section 85. Avnish Bajaj was declared guilty, but he was actually not declared guilty by the judgment. He was not actually punished, so he was already like, because of whatever was there under IPC, he was kind of discharged. So on the context of the analyzing of the decision, there's one thing that comes into the point of view is that the concept of actual knowledge and due diligence were supposed to be really inserted and defined post to this particular judgment. And obviously, because of a particular filter, computerized filter, not functioning properly, you could not make a CEO liable, because he was not controlling the filter per se. So he wouldn't know if the filter is not working. So though it was his duty to actually see that the filter works properly, but because you could not have under Section 292 and 294, because there was no deemed criminal liability, he was not made liable under this particular provision. So there are a lot of aspects in this case which needed a lot of more understanding, for which the amendment was done. Alright, so this is with regard to the Baazee.com case and whatever happened in this particular case. Thank you so much.